Yeah, now I've started the recording. So let me give out the password today. The first password is Chicago. That is, if you not want to know why Chicago, that is because Prabha is based in Chicago. So that is the relevance of the first password. So we will get to the second password at some point in time towards the end of the program. So I just want to, again, exercise my host privilege for a few minutes to take you through. Actually, yesterday, when Kirsten was speaking, right in the beginning, one of the things that I asked her, I'm sorry, I'm going to mute you all except Prabha. Okay, Prabha, I need to unmute you now. So that is going to be, yeah, unmute Prabha. You are unmuted now. Are you, Prabha, unless you are?
Hello? Yes.
You're right. Okay, I'm sorry about that. There was a noise coming from somewhere, so that could become intolerable later. So as I was saying, the solution-focused coaching was, to me, always a misnomer based on the MCC coaching that we have all gone through. You should give up your focus on solution and you just move on. But certainly there's a bit of an epiphany as as she was going through, and I was in the client's chair, and she asked me some of the questions. The epiphany was really this, that when you try desperately to, we are all, many of us, and I'm speaking for the majority here, I guess, who have been from an executive background, we are always taught to troubleshoot. We are always there to solve problems. And even if you're not, even in other parts of our life, most men are that, women are a little better. They're not that focused on desperately looking for solutions. And men, for some reason, they think that is their purpose in life, that they have to find solution for other people. Then they can't find solution for themselves, most usually, actually. But finding solutions for other people is extremely important for men. And then when we sit in a coach's chair and we try to get out of that space, it's extremely difficult, very, very difficult. So you're constantly being told by your mentor, no, don't ask questions about solution, don't shift the client out there, don't ask what questions, ask who questions between the years, etc., etc., etc. And there's a tremendous amount of anxiety. Now, even though solution-focused coaching sort of implies, but actually it is not. It's just the reverse. Once I'm able to accept as a coach that, there is a solution out there, and that solution is out there in the client's mind, that very knowledge, that very awareness makes my job a lot easier. I'm able to breathe a lot easier. I don't have to hold my breath and really struggle towards that thing of, I need to find a solution for the client. And to me, I'm not quite sure whether it really came out that way. I think Kirsten did say certain things that implied that. And some of the questions that she asked me, and she clearly said, it may sound like the what questions, but they are actually going deep. And it was true. Yeah, I am a reflective person by nature, but it really took me very deep into certain very powerful insights. And I thoroughly enjoyed the conversation that I had with her in terms of finding out and how potentially it could have moved me into action. Yeah, why am I saying this? Is that I see what Prabha is going to talk about today is in both ways an interesting segue to what Kirsten talked about yesterday. And perhaps in some ways, it's even whatever the equivalent word to a segue as a prelude in musical terms that would lead into that. Cindy opened up the webinar series, a colloquium with presence. And I think at the MCC level, that's probably the most important. Whether you have the presence there, whether you are really present there. And sometimes your absence in terms of ego, absence in terms of identity is really what the presence is about. It's not presence in that sense. It's not the gravitas that we are trying to project in an executive space. The active glue that really leads from an agreement, which is setting up the goals, to the final action, is really active listening. If you had the ability to listen. And it's not just about listening to the words. The words, as has been very clearly established, there are hundreds of studies which show that roughly about 20% of the communication is words. Probably about another 30% is body language, and 50% is just various other things, tonality and all kinds of stuff, so the emotions and so on and so forth. So how do you really interpret all that? So one of the best listeners in the business that I have come across is Prabha. Prabha was my mentor, as I was briefly saying, when I was training for my PCC with ICA, the Australian institution. And later we met together when she was with Janet Harvey, Invite Change, and I was initially training for my MCC before I started working with Cindy. Prabha was also working towards the MCC, but she was part of the faculty. And she eventually got her MCC that way. And there's something about her in terms of her gentleness, in terms of her just being present there. Very calming influence. Person like me, complete alpha. I can't but be restless. Even someone like me, it's like a monkey who, like Vivekananda said, who's been stung by a scorpion and already drunk, that kind of a state. Someone who could calm me at that point in time was if there was a person who could do that. That was Prabha. She had an extraordinary ability. I'm mixing metaphors a bit, mixing competencies a bit. I would call her a very powerful listener who then uses questions very actively and directly, and so embodies all that conversation rather than saying she's an active listener. The active listener doesn't do her justice. She is an extraordinarily powerful listener. So without much ado, let me hand you over to Prabha. And as usual, as you go along, if you could put your questions on the chat box and raise your hands if necessary, I'll unmute you. I see here, Mohan, I would love to have a discussion with you on that. The men are not the Purusha, they are just the opposite. The Purusha and Prakriti, the Purusha is the passive one. Prakriti, the Shakti, is the active one. So that is what makes up the Ardhanarishwara in the Purusha Prakriti kind of thing. So unfortunately, the way people have understood and misinterpreted the scriptures, the Purusha is seen to be the active one. But anyway, that's on the chat box, so I couldn't let that pass because I'm addicted to the Upanishads and the Hindu scriptures. Over to you, Prabha.
Ram, thank you so very much. And I'm absolutely delighted to be here and very humbled that Coach Arya has invited me here to share whatever I've learned and whatever I've imbibed and whatever I know about active listening. And like Ram said, I don't think active listening can be exclusive. It is very, very, very much a part of the entire coaching conversation. An analogy that I use very frequently is all the competencies that we have, wonderful ones. It is like the yarns, and the coach weaves a tapestry with all those competencies. And what facilitates a beautiful design at the end, a very important part, is that active listening. So let me just invite each of you to come to the here and now and reflect on a piece of music or a lecture you've had, and maybe it made you smile, maybe it brought tears to you. What do you think really happened? Yeah. Yeah. Ram, what do you think really happened? Yeah.
You were asking me, Prabha?
Yeah, and I can see in the chat box, it touched my heart. Yes, Ram, tell me.
Depends on really the music, Prabha. If I listen to Beatles, my favorites, I grew up in that era.
Yeah.
That makes me tap my feet, and it really takes me to another level, completely different level. And if I listen to, for example, The Amazing Grace, which is being sung by one of the blue greats, that really takes me to a completely different level, very, very spiritual. So I guess you're right. It touches your heart in many different ways, and probably touches different parts of your emotional centers.
Yeah, definitely. And like I'm seeing on the chat box, it inspires, it elates. It could even bring calmness, especially when you're highly disturbed. You listen to a piece of music. For me, it is M.S. Subbulakshmi's music. It just completely settles me down, and I say, okay, my problems are not a big deal. It brings me to that place. And in my perception, what happens is,
Sorry, sorry, Prabha. 1 minute. I'm terribly sorry, Prabha. I really apologize.
no problem.
Yeah, someone out there, though I have muted here. For some reason, I am unable to mute everybody. So I'll again request you. I see some names here whose audios are not muted, and there is a noise behind you, which is really disturbing. So please check that, please. There is a person here, Vilas Gavade. You are not muted. I'm not able to mute you. So please mute yourself and others as well. Sorry, Prabha. Please go ahead.
Okay, great. So it is the attention to the notes that we hear in that music that triggers thoughts, experiences, certain words which have a meaning which is very specific only to that particular person. It is that trigger action. It is that way of touching. That's where the touching takes place, the connection takes place, and then we experience these emotions. And what happens, or the purpose of a coaching conversation, is to make that connection, is to really help the client to touch with their experiences, with their knowledge, with whatever they know about themselves. So it creates an exploration, it creates awareness, it creates discovery, and all of those good things. And how do we do it in the coaching conversation? That is active listening. If we are thinking of creating more of the aha moments, and aha is just not the bulb coming up, but it could be very subtle. It could happen even outside the coaching session. It is when the client says, yes, that touched me. It is not an aha that, yes, I found a solution. It is an aha even for a direction of thinking, for the thought process. So that's what active listening does. And that's why, for me, it's very exciting to be talking about active listening today. ICF has defined active listening as the ability to focus completely on what the client is saying and is not saying, to understand the meaning of what is said in the context of the client's desires, and to support client's expression. This is so critical. It's very nicely put there. And what I also like to bring out at this time is, in the coach-client relationship, the coach almost disappears in the coaching conversation. The client is the center stage, and all of us coaches know that. And when a person is at the center stage, imagine a play and the client is in center stage, they're sharing things. Suddenly something stops. They pause. if the coach is really fully present, then they're able to pick up on that pause and really address that, to ask the client, hey, I can notice that you're pausing. What's going on within you? What's happening at this moment? Or what held you back? So that is all the role of the coach is. It's not to find out, why is this client saying this? What is the solution that'll work for him? No, to help them to think, to help them to find their own solution. So to notice, and like Raman said at the beginning, be absolutely present in the here and now, to notice and be very observant about the client. Even over a telephone, you can notice the inflections of voice, tonalities, all of these things, and you can pick up cues. And that happens only when you're present. Yeah. So what I would like to do is, at this moment, pause here and let's have anything that comes up for you. And yes, before I proceed, the other thing I wanted to share at the very beginning, I got so involved in talking, is I would love this. We have another 45 minutes. There's 45 minutes to be more interactive. It is not me talking all the time. In fact, let's all be coaches to one another and make it a learning platform all around. Okay, so far, having listened to me, when you reflect on it, what comes up for you?
Okay, let me do this as an experiment, Prabha. I'll unmute everybody, and I would expect everybody to mute themselves except when they want to really say something, because otherwise, not because I don't trust them to do that, but otherwise, if your system is open, your audio can cause a bit of a havoc. Okay, I'm unmuting everybody. So you can hear all the cymbals and all the drums playing at the background. So so if you could mute yourself at your end, and as and when you have to.
Live chat.
I think that is an experiment.
45.
Okay. Somebody is talking on the phone. Okay.
Yeah, let's mute.
No, let's mute. So the experiment doesn't work, unfortunately, because they are not listening. So
yeah.
Okay.
And that makes me curious.
Yeah.
What is it that takes you away from wanting to be here? Because physically you wanted to be here. You wanted to be here. But right now, mentally, you seem to be somewhere else. So what is that? That's a piece of an active listening, just an example.
Yeah. Cindy, you want to answer that? You are unmuted.
Okay, actually, I was going to say that drumming, I think, Prabha, you spoke about music, so somebody couldn't resist that.
True, absolutely.
What I wanted to say, Prabha, and perhaps it's a question also attached to it. You and other MCCs on the call know that as we progressed or prepared for our journey to application, one of the biggest things that changed personally for us was the way we listened. And it really evolved and changed. And I know how challenged I felt sometimes to catch myself when I was not listening and quickly start listening again. Mm-hmm. Because, you know, that would be the deciding factor between missing something really important that will take away your MCC. So for you, what was some of your highlights on your journey to transitioning around listening?
Yeah, that's a wonderful question, and it really segues into the next step of our conversation. So before I respond to it, what was it for you
Mm. I think they're losing the entire thing around coach training and all the elements of training and that got in the way, or all the elements of performance that got in the way of really listening to the client. So it was dropping, as in dropped my guard around performance. And that's a big guard to drop. It takes us years to do that.
Yes.
And to drop it takes months also.
Mm-hmm.
But for me, the biggest thing was when I dropped all, as Ram would call it ego, but I would call it all performance stuffs. And this just appear there for the client alone.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And would you like to dig one step deeper?
Okay.
So
I'll be your client. Okay.
Yeah. So what is really listening? What did you drop there?
I think it was the anxiety a coach feels or the stress a coach feels to get it right. Because it wasn't about me getting it right for myself. It was about helping the client achieve whatever they said they wanted to from the session.
Yeah.
So it became a very simple, narrowed down process of, I am here to help this client achieve what they want from this session in context of the bigger picture of their life.
Yeah. And was it helping the client, or was it being useful to the client?
As in, was I being useful to the client?
Yeah. Did you want to be helpful to the client, or what you're thinking is being more useful to the client?
I don't know about those two words, Prabha, but I would say that it was showing up for the client, or showing up in a way that brought out internally my best. And externally, I think the value of that was the client moved to what they wanted. See, I would question this whole thing about how helpful we are to clients and how useful we are. So I think it was just the way we hold the space, maybe.
So a picture that comes to my mind, I'll share it with you and see what happens. The client, for want of a better word, they're not a piece of marble, but they are a sculpture piece. And the coach gradually chips away to create the final sculpture. Is that a good analogy for you?
For the coach, yeah, that is good enough. Or the coach perhaps just creates pathways to new possibilities, or to something new emerging there for the client that the client has not thought about before, in what may have been an issue that has been going on for a hell of a long time.
Yeah,
so
this is
good. So it's a refining process if using your analogy of chipping away.
Yeah. And that is because the client allows it. If the client didn't want to be fine-tuned, no, it's not going to work. The coach can be the best MCC in the world, but they're not going to have an impact. Or a simple, a first year coach can really have an impact. It's up to the client. So in the entire coaching process, in the coaching conversation, if you really look at it genuinely, the coach really doesn't have a big deal. So to be in that space, to hold the client and say, hey, I'm there for you. Now you explore. And when you get stuck, I might just chip in. For me, that is active listening.
Prabha,
Yeah.
just to interject at this point in time, I personally would prefer the analogy not of sculpting on a marble, probably a slab of butter. It's probably much more gentle. Okay, anyway, and there was another comment that was made by Mohan here that he likes or he feels it's better to listen while his eyes are closed. Join the gang. There are some other people out here as well. And one of the problems I always have is people saying, are you listening? Your eyes are closed. What are you doing? Are you sleeping? Yeah, I find I listen much better. It all depends on individual proclivity. There's a question from Shanaz, and I'll just open Shanaz. Where is it now? Yeah, unmute. It's about a marker. So, Shanaz, would you like to frame your question, please?
Thank you, Ram. Thank you very much, Prabha. Hi, everyone. Two questions. One, the question that I've got more energy for right now is please help to explain your distinction that you've just made about the need of the coach to be either helpful or the need of the coach to be useful. Is it a particular stance that one needs to come from that's more productive in active listening? So I'm curious about that. And then there's this piece of evidence that someone that would assess possibly an MCC applicant, where they say, and I don't quite understand it. It says, listen to the client's processes, not only about specific meaning of the client's language and concepts. Could you help to give me an example of, if I practice active listening, how would I listen for clients' processes? Maybe it's very familiar to me, but it's possibly just a language thing that I'm having difficulty understanding. Thank you very much.
Great questions, Shanaz. Thank you for asking. One of my favorites is that difference between helpful and useful. Again, when I think of helpful, it is like helping a person achieve something. A child is crossing the street. Yeah, I'm helping the child to cross the street. So holding the hand, walking with the child. When I say useful, I kind of prepare the child to say, hey, this is how it's done. Look left and right. I won't be around to hold your hand. Now you go and cross the street on your own. I've been useful in telling the child what to do before crossing the street safely. So useful is, in a way, teaching or sharing your knowledge in the adult world, sharing the knowledge with the client, and then say, this is what it is. Now, what would you like to do? Similarly, your next question, understanding the process. That's where being useful and in fact, differentiating helpful from useful became so important for me. The useful piece to understand the process of the client is to ask, supposing a person, you see a person tearing up, you hear their voice choking. You say, okay, I see those tears, or I see it's difficult for you to talk. What is happening within you? What's going on for you? So it is asking them to get in touch with their emotions and not assuming. So active listening, one of the other things is we never judge or assume. No assumptions, no judging. So to not do that, but then to ask the client, what is that for you? Because what happens, especially when I moved from PCC to MCC, PCC, you immediately say, yeah, that day you spoke to me about that. That is what must be working in the client's mind. And that's why they're suddenly feeling so choked up. No, you don't assume that. Today, the client is in a different place. They are one day older in their life journey. So it is different for them. So to notice those things, to observe their behavior, their body language, and say, what's happening for you? And then they get in touch. Hold the silence. Silence is very powerful in active listening. And the funny thing is, all of us are very uncomfortable holding silence, but it is the most powerful tool in a coaching conversation. That is where the awareness happens, discoveries happen, and the aha moments come. Does that answer your question, Shanaz? You're muted, I think. You can type it on the chat box.
Great.
Yeah,
there I
there
am.
you are.
Thank you very much. Very, very beautiful, very, very elegantly put.
Yeah.
There's some others in the chat box that's also appreciating the important distinction.
And interestingly, just to step and don't mean to interrupt you, but this is such an exciting experience I had. And very funnily, it was on the television. I constantly listen to this program called The Voice, which is a music competition. And they did the selections, and there were 4 judges selecting people. And one of the participants, once he sang, he got rave, clapping and everything, acknowledgements. And then he started crying. And one of the judges, he said, I see those tears. How would you define those tears? I thought, that's awesome. And this was by a pop singer who was a judge. So, you know, these are assumptions we make, that pop singers are just surface, but actually they're so deep. I mean, I know all the classical singers, all of them we do, but there is an assumption we make about the popular musicians. But that was the day when the whole picture changed for me. They are human beings. They can feel, they can understand. That's where their music comes from. Yeah. So that's what it, and that's active listening. Yeah.
Prabha, just to expand on this point, because I think this is one of the tipping points for many of the people who are moving from PCC to MCC, and even those who claim that they are an MCC like me at this point in time. What you're really saying is far more than just defining the difference between that helpful and useful, but it is at that space of I do not know. So when you are in that coach's chair, okay, I really do not know anything about what is happening in the client's mind. So the marker that Shanaz pointed out, yeah, you infer something from the client's language, you infer that this is what the client is saying, maybe from previous background, but as you said, at this moment, the client may be something different. You don't know.
Yeah.
The client may be the same, the client may be different. And therefore, that is where, and Cindy earlier talked about what I call the ego, the negative presence as it were, our interference in terms of based on our own experience and judgment, what we interpret as somebody else. So can the coach stay away from that state, from a completely erased, blank, tabula rasa state of mind, and be able to look at it like an absolute child? The greatest example for me is of all the people, the Dalai Lama. When he speaks, there's something that happens. He's like a kid playing around with a toy. And he's probably 80 years old or whatever it is. And the way he expresses himself, and everything is with a laugh. He doesn't take anything seriously. And he holds one of the most serious positions in the world. Now, can we do that sitting in the coach's chair? In some ways, role model the Dalai Lama.
Yeah, we can try to role model, but I don't know if I would ever be able to be like the Dalai Lama. He is so wise. I mean, there are pearls that come out from his mouth. And like you said, there's an innocence, because I think he fully knows what's going on around in the world and around him is not his doing. there is a plan and it happens. That's the spiritual level. And I think, and in the Hindu kind of philosophy, maybe we call it Maya. When you accept that Maya and say, I accept that, and I as a human need to live in this Maya. So let me see how I do it well. I'm not in control of anything. I will respond. That's where in ICA we spoke about reacting versus responding. Respond to what is happening. Do not try to defy it or understand it too much. Understand it to the extent to respond. So coming back to the coach and client, when the client shares something, we don't know anything about the client. And a classic example, again, day to day, and I think most of us parents have experienced this, especially teenage children. You tell them something, you've been disciplining them, you have been telling them what's right and wrong. Suddenly, when they're 14 or 15, you tell them something, hey, this is not safe to do. You can't dress like this. They would say, you don't understand. Really? What do you mean you don't understand? I want your safety. But we don't understand that same child we brought up for 14 years when they are in that place. So as a coach, maybe what one could do is ask the child, okay, I don't understand. Help me understand. Tell me what, and would you like to hear what I was thinking? So that's a parenting coaching kind of thing, but listening to what does this child mean by you don't understand me, you don't understand what's happening in our world, so help me understand. The coach comes to that place of saying, I don't know what's happening around. That's why we talk about the presence, being in the here and now. And I think an analogy we used extensively in our ICA classes was the first day after summer break, the blackboard is nicely clean, wiped. There's not even a spot, chalk dot on the board. That's the way that the coach comes to every session. Doesn't matter if you've coached this client for 6 months. It doesn't matter. You don't know the client. The client is the expert of their own lives, their own situations. They know what resources they have to tap. As a coach, I help them discover and connect to their inner resources. Does that answer the question, Ram?
Yeah, absolutely it does, Prabha. A couple of questions one is from Murthy. He had a question, and then Saga. I'll unmute them one by one. Murthy?
Mm-hmm.
Hello, everybody. See, the question that I had put is that I do understand that it is, if we have to be powerful in our questioning, and if we want to really respond to the client at that point of time, active listening is really. The question I have is that oftentimes we have a whole host of fears and all the stuff that keeps going on in our heads, which we need to suspend. To be able to suspend, we need to recognize this. So the question is, what can a budding coach do to travel on this journey? Because we struggle with it. I mean, is there anything that you could help us understand or that would help us?
Yeah, this is a struggle that I think, yes, all of us coaches go through. We think we need to understand everything about what the client is saying, what they want, and what the coaching process is all about. Am I doing? Yes, understanding is important. And if I don't understand something, what are the options that I have? I can always ask. I can always bring my vulnerability to the client or to the coaching platform and say, you know, you said that. I'm not able to understand that. Can you put it differently? So that's one way of beginning to understand from the perspective of the client, and therefore, you know, being useful. Sometimes the client, when they express themselves, that's the first time they're hearing why they think that way. So they're listening to themselves, and it's a new awareness for them. And then, yes, Murthy, you want to expand on it. You say, I did not mean understanding something. Is Murthy muted?
Yeah, he's muted. Or I can unmute him. But before that, what I want to say, and I think I'll ask Cindy to add on to that, is, I mean, who is a coach to understand? Why is it important for the coach to understand? I think, yes, Murthy is very right. At the starting point, this is what happens to us. It's a client who should understand. So why do we arrogate ourselves to that state? In fact, Cindy has this famous saying, the moment a coach uses the word, please make me understand or let me understand, you fail at MCC level. You should actually fail at the PCC level as well. Cindy?
No, not to fail. I'll rephrase that. I think one of my things that annoy me, when coaches ask this to clients, help me understand. You know, trust yourself as a coach. You're picking up something here. You're sensing something in the client's understanding that's not sitting well with the client. So rephrase it to be client-focused and not coach-focused would help me understand. Because quite honestly, that client is not there to help you with your understanding. The client is there to reflect what's going on with them, and you asking something to help them with their understanding of their issue, goal, or whatever they're managing.
Yeah. And that's
so
why, go ahead. Go ahead, Cindy.
Sorry, Trevor, it's CC7, okay? Use language that matches the client, or use client's language and take away the high, because it means coach performance.
Yes, absolutely. You're absolutely correct. And that is why many times one sticks with more of what is behind that. You know, it's not even help me understand what's behind that. Again, you are not, it's not for yourself, but it's the client. So yes, thank you, Cindy, for bringing that up. Definitely true. And Murthy, I hope that has answered your question. Yeah, did anybody else have anything to say?
Yeah,
Murthy can type it on the chat. Yes.
Sagar, Murthy has typed something on the chat. Yeah, absolutely, Murthy. I mean, I didn't mean it personally. The point is, most of our thinking, most of our judgment starts with that aspect of are trying to understand, are trying to solve the problem. So if we give up that trying to understand bit, help me understand bit in one way, that makes a huge difference. So that's all. It's just a thought. And of course, and that's why I really salute and bow down to the women. They have a much gentler way of putting it. I would be the one who would be taking a chisel to a marble statue, whereas Cindy and Prabha would actually be very, very gently doing it with butter. But yeah, Sagar, I'm unmuting you. You had a question. Yeah.
Yeah, I think Cindy has already tried to respond to that, but I just, I mean, what happens with me is when a client is like expressing a lot, using a lot of words to describe the situation, what happens is I kind of felt, I kind of feel pressurized by, you know, understanding like which thread is important for the client and what is it that I should be catching out of that, and how do I respond to that. And So I struggle a lot in that, and in that I feel my coaching presence is diluted, and many a times I feel that I'm not with the client.
Yeah, a very common experience, I think. And Sagar, definitely acknowledge you for bringing this up as your personal experience. Something that I do when this happens is I ask the client, what is most important for you today? And wait for the client to respond. They can have 4 and 5 topics. And as a coach, we have only limited time. The coaching session is only for that much of time. We can only do so much. And to say, yes, what is important for you today? Because at that moment, there is something that's on the surface for the client. And allow the client to take the lead. Yeah. And not really try to see what I have to do. Does that help, Sagar?
Yeah, he's muted, but yeah,
that's okay.
Yeah, he said that he already had the answer. Cindy, Prabha, I have a question, if I may. I'll unmute Karen as well, because I'm not. I have a vague feeling that she's from CTI. One of the, I mean, I tremendously respect Laura Whitworth. Her proactive listening, proactive coaching is, I think, one of the greatest books ever written on coaching. She talks about three levels of listening. Paraphrase them simply. One is the client, coach-faced, coach-focused listening, client-focused listening, and then she talks about the third level of listening called the global listening. Now, the global listening has, I mean, something like what earlier Shanaz asked, and you said it's about, hey, what's the process that is going through, taking overall. Can any of you, Cindy, you, Karen, all of you probably have studied this bit about the global listening part of Laura Whitworth? That might be useful to people here, because that's, I think, one of the gold standards of definition of listening.
Yeah. Cindy, do you want to respond to that before I do? Because global perception is something that I learned in Invite Change. You're correct. It is a CTI perception.
Yeah, I was going to say, from knowing you, I know you wrote this.
Not the guru. Anyway, yeah, so let me share what I know about global perception. We call it perception. The levels of listening are perceptions. So when we say global perception, it is important. During a coaching session, an ambulance might be driving by with its sirens on, and it impacts the client, and sometimes even the coach. So at that moment, not to just say, oh, what a racket, but to say, that was an ambulance. Anything more you want to say, or anything you want to say. Or if I am upset by that, then to say, my dad's not feeling well and that siren hurts me. To be vulnerable in that space. And to say, that's global perception. Sometimes early in the morning, you have a session, the birds are all chirping away, and the client says, hey, that bird is really neat. So, are you feeling like that bird right now? So that is global perceiving, or listening at that level. It is not just within, it is global. It's what's happening around you, which impacts you. Yeah.
Cindy,
it's
it's like, am I unmuted, Ram?
No, you're open, and so is Karen.
It's like when something changes in South Africa, when we're dealing with a particular thing, it suddenly is everybody listening. Everybody is listening with that background thing. Whether it personally affects you or not. But we all aware, oh, economically we got jam status. What does it mean for us? It actually means nothing on an everyday level. But we all suddenly listening with a different face.
Mm-hmm. Yes, that's exactly it. Yes. You sit in the airport, you're busy chatting, but when your flight is called, there you are. That's global perceiving in a personal level. And that's what we mean by that in coaching. There are things happening constantly. Yeah.
Ram, can I say something, please?
Yeah,
Karen,
please.
that story that Karen told once always impacts. I always remember it and love to tell it.
The dirty water, the clean water.
Yes. Please, Karen, you tell your story. Tell that story.
You mean me?
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, I thought you were talking about another Karen.
No, they are talking about you, Karen. And,
Oh my gosh.
and the story that you narrated to us about this lady who talked about, what is it? Something about dirty water, clean water.
Ram knew exactly what I was talking about.
Oh, okay. Yes. So I shared this story earlier. In my coach's training, my coach talked about the importance in coaching when you're listening and realizing that the client is murky. You know, they still haven't figured out what it is that they're wanting to achieve or even how to go about it. So there's a lot of stuff coming out. And she actually related it to growing up in Brooklyn, where often when you turned on the water, the first bit of water that fell out was brown and murky. And you just knew to let it run. And eventually it would become clearer. And you could bathe in it, cook in it, drink it. But you never put your glass underneath to capture that first bit of water. And so that was her metaphor for active listening and not being ready to pounce on the first thing that the client says. Let let it flow. Yeah. And then I love what Cindy said, you pull through using their language, yes, what the priorities are. I think Sagar said, how do I know what to choose? And you don't have to rush, because active listening is letting all that come, and at the natural pause. And I didn't know about the global vulnerability, so I learned so much, obviously, today, but I didn't know about that. So the way I would weave that in is that as all of that comes out and the natural pause happens, then I would say, wow, that's quite a bit. Yeah. And then I'd go to Cindy's question. Based on what you said, what is it that you want to focus on today? Or, if using their specific language, but that's I appreciate the global vulnerability. I wasn't a global perception. I wasn't sure about that, but yeah, that was my learning through my coaching.
Great,
my coach training. Let me put it that way.
Great, Karen. Thank you for sharing that story. And when you were saying, as soon as I opened the tap, it's in Brooklyn. Not only Brooklyn, come to India and it happens. And in many other places in the world, it happens. So it's the same all over, isn't it? Yeah. Yeah.
Just as an aside,
thank you.
Yeah, when Cindy talked about South Africa, something came up to my mind. I would strongly recommend all those who are here, and I recommend it to all coaches that I work with, to see this movie Invictus, Morgan Freeman and Matt Damon. And there are scenes in that movie that every coach should really see and understand. How this guy gets into the other person's mind and says something which are seemingly unconnected, which makes such a tremendous, influential and inspirational message for that person. It's an amazing movie. There are sequences in that which really said somebody's phone. Yeah, the standard kind of stuff for coaches. Yeah, I'll stop with that. Yeah. Prabha, please.
Yeah, and I know we're running to the last 5 minutes. Something that I wanted to share is for the coach. We've been talking about how the coach relates to the client, but to come to that place of doing active listening or to be present to do active listening, the things that I learned, and I would like to share it here, is, of course, like we spoke, saying that it's not me, it's the client. And then to trust myself, meaning I trust the questions, however simple it may be. Anything that comes from my intuition that I can share, that I share with my client, trust that, not to judge that intuition that comes. Can I say this? Is this relevant? No. Say it and share it with the client, because there may be some gems that the client will take from there. So trust yourself, trusting, of course, the coaching process. And to tell yourself, this person is new to me, even if you've done 6, 7 sessions with them, to say, this person is new for me today at this moment. So I do not know anything about them. And be curious to know more about them today at this place, at this moment. So these were some kind of things that I constantly practice and continue to practice even now. I have to sometimes tell myself, especially, I know I have a client right now who's really a positive personality, and he comes to the session from the moment he comes in to the end. And as a coach, what would you like to talk today? No problems. He'll tell you what he wants to talk, what he wants to finish with, what he is thinking, I don't even have to open my mouth. Trust myself that it's not important for me to open my mouth. He will do it. And if he wants, Prabha, I said this, what do you think? He'll ask. So what do I bother? Allow him. He's a great client for me. So to trust that, yes, we can do this. And I don't have to know anything about my client, but I can be there to support him and take him to wherever he wants to grow. So that's just my little bit of learning. Yeah.
Thank you, Prabha. It's wonderful. First of all, meeting up with you after a long time, and I hope to be seeing you again back in Chicago. Perhaps we could have a meal together. Probably at some point later next year, we will be having Prabha again. Maybe she can take you through the PCC markers, if you like, step by step in terms of that. That was not the purpose of, it was more a global outlook in terms of what listening should be. So I have given the password. The first one was Chicago. The second is Prabha, P-R-A-B-H-A. Chicago Prabha is a full password for today's CCEU, if you would like to send it across to me. And tomorrow we have Leda, Prabha, Leda. We were all together, Damien, in a program with Janet Harvey. And Leda later became the ICF, the chair of the ICF board. Extraordinary person, just like Prabha, extremely very, very gentle person. Opposites attract, so that's why I have such a deep relationship with Prabha, Cindy, Leda, and people like that. She's going to speak not necessarily just on the ICF competencies, but in terms of the coach's development and globally from her own experience as an ICF chair as well. And the day after, on Monday, we have an additional session which we had not planned earlier, but I thought I would make use of the opportunity because we are planning to inaugurate this program with Case Western University, and Dr. Nina Verma, she's in this session today. She would be talking on coaching through the appreciative inquiry process, what is also popularly known as the appreciative coaching, and how it is related. It is something that I use in many ways in my own coaching after having learned that. She was one of my inspirations in terms of learning that in many ways, though she did the program with me. She was my mentor as far as appreciative inquiry methodology is concerned. So that we have on Monday. Those who haven't registered, please do. Or even if you don't register, just come in because we have space for 200. We have been running around 40 to 50. So I don't think there should be any particular problem about attendance. So I leave you with that. It's exactly on top of the hour. Today's password is Chicago Prabha, and see you tomorrow at the same time. And thank you once again, Prabha. Thank you, Cindy. Thank you, Karen. Let the brown water flow is what I said.
Thank you so much for having me.
Bye.
Bye-bye, everyone.
Bye. Thank you. Yeah. Bye-bye.